Welcome to Celeste. It's a pretty small indie game, you know. I haven't seen many people play it. And me personally, I've only played it a little bit. I got some mods here to like make my character look nicer and stuff, but don't worry about that. We'll name myself. I've only played like an hour's worth. Yeah, so it's like an hour's worth. Now, if you don't know what Celeste is about, it's a 2D platformer, where you can climb, dash, which you'll see later on. But it's about like anxiety and stuff. It's super original. Don't worry about it. Oh no, it's getting everything. Oh no. Squaw. So yeah, you can dash. That's the main mechanic. Now, seeing as I've played a little bit of this, I've made a few videos on it too. I can do this. Now, I will be getting all the berries and B-sides and C-sides because I'm just that cool. I mean, I've never played this, so obviously I have no idea what any of that is. Look, it's a berry. No, but the real reason I want to make this video is I've obviously played Celeste. I actually really enjoy the game. I kind of just want to talk about it. I mean, I first played Celeste way back in 2020. I say way back, but I mean, in reality, it really was coming up 4 years ago. And at that time in my life, I was going through some things, to say the least. And to be honest, it was one of the games where I just like instantly got hooked to it. I did not stop playing it until I beat it, although that in itself isn't really true, because I actually ended up not playing it for a long time. I didn't actually like it all that much for some reason. I like touched on it and I was like, it's okay. And I only started playing it because my friend was like, hey, you should check out this game. And I did. I decided to play it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it as in after I came back to it. I mean, when I did play this at first, I was pretty bad at it, as I think most people were, which is a little surprising because I'm actually pretty good at most platformers. I mean, I have played, I don't know, I've played a lot of platformers in my time, some much harder than the others, but one thing was very consistent was, well, I was consistent. I was very good at the platformer. Not so much on this game though, and it kind of turned me off from it. And I also just, I don't know, it didn't feel like it was as important as my friend had described it, because they described it as like a really beautiful game with a very lovely story and something that you could honestly take from. I don't know what I was doing there, to be honest. Nice. I don't know why I did it that way. There's like a billion ways I could have done that. And I mean, as I just showed, I have about 1,000 hours in this game. Because I actually played about 50 hours or so on itch.io. Because that's where it was first shown to me, because that's what my friend bought it on. I think they bought me a humble bundle. And it had this game in it, or they just bought me the game straight up. I don't actually recall. So I put about 50 hours on itch.io for this game. And then I loved it so much once I completed it on itch, I decided that I would buy it on Steam. And so I did. I bought it on Steam, just so I could replay the game and get all the achievements and stuff. And I did it relatively quick. I mean, I did it in, I don't know, I want to say probably like 20 hours. But I never got to make any content of it, because at the time I was on a pretty shitty computer. Or maybe just at the time I wasn't really making as much content. 2020 was a very rough year for me, so things never really went as I wanted. I know 2020 for most people was a rough year, but for most people I think COVID is what made that a rough year. But for me, it had nothing to do with COVID. COVID was honestly the best thing that happened to me that year, which is really kind of not great. I don't like saying that, but like that's just what happened. because COVID actually allowed me to find a lot of new people that I never would have spoken to. Is what allowed me to eventually go back and see my mom, which is why I'm able to be where I'm at now. And it allowed me to, I mean, put it lightly, everything I do now was a direct result because of COVID. Like, if COVID never happened, I think my life would have been very different. Yeah, one of those things that I ended up doing was playing this game. And I don't think at the time I realized just how big it would end up becoming in my circle, because I actually ended up making maps and stuff for this just for my friends to play. And I even showcased one of the levels that I made called Tartarus, because it was a very challenging level and it was honestly kind of an accomplishment to even beat. In that video I didn't beat it legitimately, I just used save states because I wanted to showcase the level, and I mentioned that in the description, of course. I didn't just like pretend like I beat it, but I just wanted to show off the level, and then later I beat it normally. So why am I making this video? Should be a real question. Well, for one, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little out of ideas. And a little sick of trying to find them, because I don't know, I kind of just been pumping out content as a way to keep myself entertained while I wait for college and other things to take form, since all that stuff is taking a long ass time. And because all that's taken a long time, I've decided to make whatever comes to my mind, or like whatever I can do. And the problem with that is it was only going to be Fortnite, because I don't know, Fortnite was like releasing 3 game modes, and I was like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to make videos on them. I mean, I played the game kind of avidly. I mean, not like a crazy amount, but I just thought it'd be fun to make videos on the new thing, because, you know, that was something I've always wanted to do, is just make videos on new content that came out. But I've never been able to catch it, you know, because I haven't. And especially with my new computer, I've been able to pump out content faster as well as higher quality, which is not something I was able to do on my laptop, seeing as only to play the games, I mean, the laptop did just fine for that, but I mean, this computer can now do both. It can record it and play it, so it's very nice. As well as I started using Premiere Pro, and I have a much better CPU, so I've been able to make content a lot faster than I otherwise would be. I do wish I could say like anything else other than that's pretty much why I'm making the videos. Just I had nothing else to really make, and I've always wanted to talk about Celeste because it is by far my favorite platformer. And I don't actually know why that is, because in terms of like, it's a good game. I'm not knocking it at all, but it's weird that it became my favorite. And I don't think that's due to the base game, if I'm being honest. I think it's just due to the community at large and what I'm able to do with Celeste as a whole. Because as I mentioned before, I've made levels for my friends because that's just something you're able to do. It's very easy to make levels for this game. The other thing is, the game has really no limit to what it wants you to do. If you want to just play through the game once and then never touch it again, the game fully advocates for that. If you want to get all the collectibles, it advocates for that, you know? But it's not like a requirement to do anything. At the end of the day, you can do whatever you want. And that's the sort of freedom I don't think a lot of games really give. Especially a linear 2D platformer. I mean, don't get me wrong, most of them do have some sort of in-game level creator, that sort of thing. But they're never like, they're not usually as big. Like, one game that had a level creator that I do know about is Super Meat Boy. Super Meat Boy had a lot of levels created for it. But then it was just like, they were just done making shit for it and they shut down the servers for them. So no one could publish their levels. And that's kind of unfortunate, because the other thing with Celeste is it's very humble. If you're a new person to like platformers and that sort of thing, this is like the perfect game for you to play, because it is just so kind and so lenient to what you can and can't do. And so easy to learn, but very hard to master, if that makes sense. Like, I think I've gotten the majority of my friends to play the game just based off of how much I talk about it or I play it. And I have friends who have played the game, but we've made new memories, new connections, and that sort of thing just because of the modding scene. But on top of that, it was built for speedrunners, so it's very speed runnable, I guess is a better term. I don't really know how else you would put that. It's a great game. I love Celeste. Also, just wanted to make the video because I'm kind of out of ideas for new things. I do have ideas, but they're not new games that I've played, and so I don't know if I want to make the videos on them because they're not new games. Meaning it would just be I would just be replaying them for me and then making a video on them, which is fine. I know a few games that I can do that on, but yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things where I'm kind of just trying it out. I want to see if I can make a video on this game, just talking about it, loathing over it essentially. Then I think I can make videos on other games that I've played and talk about them. Because unfortunately, my opinions don't seem to drive well with people. People don't seem to like me saying that their game is mid. I'm looking at you, the finals. You guys are a bunch of fucking winners. Yeah, we'll see how this video does. This game also has a lot of really fun mechanics. Like, for instance, a berry will be collected when you're on the ground for, I think it's like 6 frames or something. Something equivalent to that. Or really close. However, it also needs to feel safe. So, the best way I can describe that is if there's death near you, there is literally a massive trigger that says, hey, the berry cannot be collected here. Obviously, it's all like manually placed, but I just think that's really funny and not atypical of how others would probably make their game. Like, I don't think anyone's going, oh yeah, my collectible needs to feel safe before you can collect it. Because that's how the devs described it, and I just think that's fucking nice. And when I made my levels, I didn't actually know that gimmick. So a lot of my berries can be collected pretty easily, just due to the fact that like I never really made rooms for them, which definitely gives a different feeling to the berries in my levels. Because I don't know, when I made my levels, I mostly made it, to put it lightly, I originally made my entire trapdoor. I made the whole thing for my girlfriend, just as a sweet thing to do. And then it slowly evolved into making it for all of my friends. And because it slowly evolved into that, it kind of strayed further and further from just a little thing to a very big project that now has 5 worlds, all with A and B sides except the last world. So I believe that's 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13? I think that means 13 total, like, worlds to complete. And in total of how many screens, I never calculated that. But I know the longest chapter is about 24 screens. But, like, the C sides specifically are only one or two screens. And then the B sides vary from, I think, 4 screens all the way up to 9 or 10, like more than that. So a little over 100 screens that I've made for just my chapter alone. And I mean hundreds of hours probably at this point. And then the other thing is, I mentioned that the modding scene is what made some new memories and connections with friends, and that's because the Strawberry Jam mostly. I mean, me and my friend, I've played that together, and I did play it with my girlfriend for a little bit. I should mention that we're no longer together, but at the time, now if I'm not mistaken, there's like a little cheese you can do here. Since there's no berries that way, it saves a little bit of time. But yeah, overall, I adore Celeste. Celeste is by far the most technical platformer I think I've ever played. There are a ludicrous number of mechanics and things that you can do that just completely trump other video games. But yeah, the amount of people that have gotten to play this game that I don't think ever would have even glanced in its direction is cool. Or at least give it a second try. I know a few people who did want to try it, didn't like it or something, and then through me ended up giving it another chance, which I think is, I love it. And for anyone who knows anything about Celeste, or if you don't, its whole story about depression or anxiety or whatever is cool in the way it tells it. It essentially, if you don't know, it says that you have to learn to live with it. You can't just get rid of it. You know, you can't just accept it and then move on from it, because that's not really how people work, and I don't think people understand that. Being depressed is normal. Having anxiety is normal. Having stress is normal. It's normal to have those emotions, to have to deal with them, to have to live with them. Those are normal. What wouldn't be normal is if you never had any of that. And yet, see, people seem to have this mentality that it's weird or it's unnatural, that you need to fix it by going to therapy or something. That's not what therapy's for. Therapy's a way for you to cope through someone else, or a way for them to help you figure out ways you yourself can cope to deal with the problems at hand. And I think people miss that sometimes. And so I quite like that the game itself kind of says that to people who don't already know. It's something I think needs to be said, and I love it that the game says it in its own way. I want to see if I can get a 1-up. If you don't know, I'm pretty good at not collecting berries from my, the last like 2 videos I think I made on this game were both about me collecting every berry in certain chapters, which is not a easy task, by the way. I mean, I think this is enough for a 1-up, right? Oh, I got 3 1-ups, never mind. I got way more than one. My Steam 2023 recap, I want to say, I think it showed that I played it every single month this year. Keep in mind, I have already beaten this, and I already had like 200 to 300 hours, I think, on Celeste at that point. I don't actually know how much time I've added to that this year alone, but if I had to make a guess, it's about half the time. And a lot of it really is, it's modded stuff and making my own maps, because it takes a long time to make maps, even my relatively mediocre ones. Another thing I kind of want to know is, if you feel inclined to, share your experiences with Celeste, because I am kind of curious. I wouldn't mind reading some comments about how other people either found this game or have played this game, or if they enjoy it or not, that sort of thing, because it's one of those games I feel warrant a playthrough even if you don't really like platformers, because it is super easy to learn. It's not terribly complicated usually, and the amount of skill that's required to beat it I don't think is all that high. Don't get me wrong, it is a hard game, but as far as hard games go, I wouldn't say it's the hardest. I mean, like my girlfriend my ex beat the game, and they're not very technical with platformers, and they're not like amazing at video games, and same with a lot of my friends that I've talked about, so I think anyone could. I will say some of the mechanics in this game are a little mean. The wind can be pretty darn irritating. In my opinion, the wind is pretty close to my least favorite thing. It is not a fun gimmick. And that's the other thing. If you couldn't tell, every chapter has its own, like, its own thing going on. This one's moving platforms, clouds, and wind. What's another thing? Deathless berries. So once you complete everything, there are golden berries, and I do think they are probably one of the weakest things in this game, because although the challenge of doing something deathless, sure, I can see it, I can warn it, and it's not required or anything, so it's not like it's a travesty against mankind. But I really don't like collectibles or really anything of this sort that require a deathless. And I know some people will disagree with that. I know some people will be like, oh, you know, deathless is, it's cool that they at least give it to to people who want to try it. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. But what about the people who don't want to try it? Because at the end of the day, the berries are collectibles. So even just these normal berries are entirely optional. You don't have to get them ever. But then in order to beat the game and get to the final world, chapter 9, you have to find these hearts, which, I mean, you've seen me collect a few of them, requires some pretty out-of-the-box thinking. On top of that, they are required to access those other things. Now, my argument for this, and the whole reason I'm bringing it up, is because I think the hearts are technically collectibles. I don't see the hearts as anything but, like, they are collectibles. So it kind of bugs me that the game doesn't require you to get one collectible, but the secret collectible, you know, the things that you can miss entirely. I'm talking like you can go through this entire game and never find a heart, never even find a heart room, never even know what it is. You may see them, but you'll never figure out how to fucking do them, right? And that requires some ridiculous, random ass things are required. But the berries that everyone sees everywhere and that are readily available and are shown to you and are far more easier to get aren't the requirement. I think that's a little silly. If I were making the game, I would have just made the heart doors berry doors instead. Now, on the other hand, I think the reason they made it a heart door was because when you complete the B-sides and the C-sides, it counts as you collecting a heart. So I think when they made the heart doors, their idea and what they wanted you to do was, it was saying like it's required to get X amount of B-sides before you can play this chapter, because this chapter is really difficult. And to that, yeah, that I can understand. I think my problem is the fact that there are hearts in the main game. I think that could be really confusing. I think people will go and look up how to do those main hearts rather than realizing that the B-side hearts do count and that you're supposed to do B-sides. Because like I said, you do see them, you just don't really know how to get them. But then again, Farewell, the very last chapter, requires all of the hearts, all B-side hearts and A-side hearts. So my point comes back immediately of just, why do you need to get hearts at all? Just, I don't know. Something I think could have been berries instead. And that's not to say that the berries themselves are perfect either. They are, they can also be just as crude. I can think of a few berries off the top of my head that are just mean, and some are very well hidden. I mean, some of them are hidden in the rooms where you get the heart, but they aren't in that heart room. They're like, you have to go past the heart room into another secret room in the heart room, which is already a secret room, and it's like, what the fuck? Yeah, levels like these are a little because like I'm pretty sure most of these lead to berries, whereas you only need the key that was in that one specific spot. So again, most people are going to end up collecting berries. I do think I would have rather had them berries or just no hearts on the A side. I think that's a weird gimmick. And the only reason I'm critiquing is because, well, I'm complimenting the game so much. talking about how much I love it and how much it like helped me through tough times and that sort of thing. But I'm not gonna sit here and call it perfect, because it's not. There are some things that are just kind of like, that's a little mean. That's not like something that I think needed to be there. Because every game's like that. I think every game deserves some critique. I think if you don't point out the flaws, then you can never really make something better, you know? Oh, I can totally do that, come on. Let's go. But yeah, like I've mentioned before, I have made Celeste levels, and I know if this video did even semi-well, there's going to be at least someone who's curious if it's something you can play. I didn't put it anywhere publicly. It was just something I privately made for my friends and stuff. But I wouldn't be opposed to the idea of giving others the file. But I don't know. I think people would have to actually ask. I'll never just do it. Alright. I've rambled on about this game a little long now, I think. There really was no other point to this game other than I just wanted to talk about it. I love Celeste. There is not a lot of games out there where I can sit down and just play without feeling a little sick of it. There's also not a whole lot of games I can play that I have nearly 1,000 hours in and still want to come back and play it and make new things and actually talk about it with other people. If you've ever played Celeste, you can give it a try. It's a $20 game. If you like platformers or things of that sort, I mean, you'll definitely enjoy it. But if you don't really like it, but you do want to try platformers, it is a very good start. And if you ever want to get into like the modding scene or that sort of thing, the game has an incredible community. Like I said, this video pretty much only exists so I can talk about this game. And, you know, maybe so I could hear how other people's experiences with the game, because I'm genuinely curious. I hope other people enjoy it as much as I do. So yeah, that is Celeste. That's been my experience with it, and why I have so many hours in it, and you should go play it. It is a good game.